Hello and welcome to the DJ Force 10 in Conversation podcast, episode 136. And today kicks off a very special feature that I'm going to run hopefully every Friday is my plan, and that is to talk to a DJ. Now, because as you probably know, my passion is DJing, my hobby, my part profession is DJing. Any of you that kind of got involved last year, I did 365 days of scratching, not to boast about it, but I did it. But I also DJ nightclubs and stuff as well, but I've always been interested in DJing since a very early age, and scratch DJ, still am. I did that in a band, as some of you would know, and I just want to talk shop with DJs. So every Friday, if it is your cup of tea, that's what these shows are going to be. But yeah, I've got DJ Woody this week. I've already got next week's lined up, which is DJ Rasp as well, but we're going to talk DJ Woody today, who is a two-time world champion in DJing, also Innovator, record label owner, beat producer, so many things, but go check out Woodwork Records, which is his label. If you're into scratch DJing and stuff, he's got some absolutely great scratch vinyl, battle vinyl on there, as well as his own albums and stuff like that. So do go check him out, stream it on the services, all that kind of stuff if you want to listen to his solo albums. But he worked with bands like I Defy, so he's kind of worked in the rock genre as well. For my friends that remember I Defy, they're a metal band back probably same time as I was in a metal band, because we toured together, as we do talk about in the show. We did tour with I Defy, and it was just kind of cool to find out how that sort of like came about and everything like that. But you'll find that in the end. I'm not going to spoil anything else. I just want to give a shout out to all the people downloading the show. Last week run of shows kicking off with Mike and Ming of Comic Book Men. That was awesome. I love that, and it's been very well received. We've got the video counterpart bit on the YouTube now, so you can actually visibly see me talking to these people, which is kind of cool. I want to try and set something up like that for future episodes and things. So keep your eyes peeled, literally, on that front. But I want to give a shout out to Bloodhounds as well. Awesome band, great chat as well. Hubris, again, another awesome band, great chat. And Fireschwans, who are, again, fantastic. And I'm absolutely loving their music right now, their videos. But I've got their music on my playlist, and I'm kind of listening to them obsessively, I think is probably the word, not religiously, but obsessively. But we've got loads of stuff coming up as well. I'm not to sort of give you a bit of a spoiler as to what we've got coming up. But I've confirmed interviews and recorded interviews with North Atlas, the Black Dahlia Murder, Tokyo Blade, Pop Evil, Trapped, and I've got Steve Hackett as well, which I did a few weeks ago, which should be on its way out soon. But I've got plenty more lined up as well that I haven't recorded yet, but I'm not going to release those till they're recorded. All those other ones have been recorded, so next week it's going to be a mixture of those, going into the week after that as well, because there's more than 5 there. I hope you guys are enjoying these chats, really, because they're a lot of fun for me. And I just want to know what you guys are listening to, actually. If you could hit us up on the socials, I think that would be really cool. Some of you have been. I've been getting messages on Twitter, getting messages on Facebook and stuff like that. The two sort of main areas where I'm at. Just look up DJ Force X, and you'll find me. And I'm digging it. And I'm loving what you're hearing. If you give me recommendations as well, I've got people recommending me bands to listen to and stuff, which has been absolutely amazing. I love that. This is the kind of like community shit I want, just so I can discover bands that I've never heard before, which is fantastic. And if I find anything absolutely awesome, or I fall in love with something, I will give it a shout out and yourself on here. Also, when it comes to reviewing the show as well, if you guys are up for that, please do it. Your podcast platform of choice, Spotify, Apple, wherever you're getting it. I think Spotify seems to be my main hits at the moment, which is fantastic. I can actually see a lot of like feeds from there, as well as the other sort of platforms that I've been on for longer. They're sort of got regular hits and stuff like that, which is absolutely amazing. But yeah, if you could give us a shout out, give us a follow, whatever these things do, go on my YouTube channel, subscribe to the channel. I'm not charging for anything, you know what I mean? I'm not selling anything as such, apart from myself, my voice. But yeah, I just want to know what you guys are listening to, but I also want to see it's getting out there and you're enjoying the show as well. So keep doing what you're doing, and much love for you. So this is Friday. This is DJ Woody. You guys enjoy it. Have a good weekend. on my show today, I have DJ Woody. Welcome, DJ Woody.
How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. So, welcome to the show, mate. How you doing today?
I'm all right. Yeah, just sort of going about my sort of my day in the lockdown, as we all are right now.
Yeah.
So cracking on with a few sort of label related sort of bits and bobs today.
Yeah.
So
excellent. Well, you keep him busy, so that's important at this time. So,
yeah, definitely.
Well, what I wanted to do is sort of get a sort of an establishing sort of like your journey so far, because I became aware of you. I can't remember what year it was. I'm trying to hark back, but you worked with a band that I toured with called I Defy.
All right, cool.
I was actually DJing a metal band myself at that point. So, and
cool.
we toured together before you guys sort of like worked together. But it was I've been in contact with Chris and Tom for quite a while.
Awesome.
I haven't actually had them for quite a while, to be fair. But no, I remember going out on the road with them, and then when they recorded their album, they said they were working with you on a track, which I thought was really cool. So then I sort of found out a bit more about you. And I'm like, cool, who's this guy? Because I was like, I'm well into sort of like the DJ side of things, as people would know, but obviously I don't know everyone. And no, I found out that you were working with Vestax at one point. Was it the Controller One?
That was... Yeah. Well, the link with Vestax came initially. I used to do all the DJ battles and all that lot, and back then the main three titles were the DMC, the ITF, and the Vestax competition. So around the late 90s, I started doing the DJ comps, and I think in 2000 I entered the Vestax competition, and did I? No, I won the 2001 UK Vestax, and from there they offered sponsorship and stuff. So from that, essentially there was kind of a pretty niche movement within turntablism at the time, sort of early 2000s, which there was various DJs, including myself, exploring the more melodic side of turntablism.
Yeah.
So a few of us basically wanted Vestax to actually produce a turntable that was actually designed for us, rather than going from the Technics 1210 blueprint that, it was essentially, we were bastardizing the thing, it was turntablism's punk rock, we're doing something with a piece of kit that wasn't intended. And by that point, we'd had about 20 years of development of scratching, and nobody had actually designed a turntable for scratching with turntablism in mind.
Yeah.
Making music by manipulating records. So, so there were a few people whispering in Vestax's ears with various ideas along that theme. And around 2003, they started getting serious about it. 2002, I won their world title, and then 2003 they started sending sort of initial ideas for this turntable, and they flew us over to Japan for a meeting, design meeting, and I exchanged various sort of designs that I'd put together, and so it was myself and about sort of 5 US DJs that all kind of chipped in.
Yeah.
With Vestax for that, and essentially it's a turntable that you can play scales on. It's got buttons around the side that allow you to shift the pitch of the platter.
Yeah.
So whatever sample source, whatever record you've got on there, by musical increments, and you can, sort of have. It's got a range of scales, and you can set whatever root note you want, and you've got a little toggle switch to go sort of up and down a semitone, and there's lots of different things that you can do with it. You can set your own. You can have it sort of remember, like you can make your own scale on it as well.
Oh, okay.
It's MIDI compatible and all sorts of stuff. But it was essentially the first. It's sort of musician's turntable, if you will.
Because I remember when I got a set of 1210s for my 21st birthday. I was quite fortunate for someone else to actually pay for them
Awesome.
at the time.
Always the best way.
Yeah, but over the years when I was in this band, I was always looking for ways for pushing what I was doing. And I actually got the PDX 2000s, the Vestax, because I found them better for the road generally, because the Technics were nice, but they were very sensitive.
And the weight a ton as well.
Yeah, there's that too. And the two PDX 2000s that I've got, I've still got one of them now actually, but that served me for a good 10 years on the road. And I looked into getting the controller one, because like you guys were doing, you were pushing the envelope really in trying to sort of like get the to become more of an instrument, you know. And I was always messing with the pitch, jumping the needle around on different tones. I had a record with like guitar tones on it. I think it was a Swamp Breaks.
Awesome.
And I was using that, like just mimicking guitar riffs and stuff like that, just jumping between cutting riffs. But I always wanted something that I could like kind of play along, you know, rather than having like a synth or something like that, just having the turntable to play along. And I did look into getting one of those, but at the time I couldn't get my hands on one. So it was like,
unfortunately, it was a niche product. I mean, turntablism as a thing within DJ culture is niche anyway. And we were kind of, like I said, there was a handful of people. You know, you had people like Radar and DJ Quest with Live Human, who'd done stuff, and obviously there's Pickles, but like on the more melodic side, there were very few people really wanting to develop that side, you know. And you know, it was sort of myself and D Styles and XS and Ricky Rucker and Mike Boogie, and you know, there was all these guys really trying to get musical on it. And I think the introduction of the PDX 2000, like you say, that opened up so many musical avenues, because the pitch, when you moved it, you know, it shifted, you know, whereas people like Kid Koala, who's like, you know, I'm a massive fan of Kid Koala, you know, the drunken trumpet sounds drunken because he's using Technics, you know, because it doesn't react instantly, whereas with the Vestax you have plus or minus 50 and it opened up so many more avenues. And the C1 was just the promotion was pretty terrible, but non-existent. But also, it was such a niche thing. I don't think the whole idea had really captured, you know, people's sort of the attention of the wider public, really, or the, you know, sort of. I don't know. It's a hard one, really.
No,
but it was certainly, it needed to be done, and it was a great project, and it's a little piece of history. So but I mean, the great thing about it is that using something like that, all of a sudden you can speak the same language as the musicians you're working with. Because you mentioned IDFI. The reason I got hooked up with those guys was Carl Sharrock's the drummer. We go back to sort of the mid-90s when I finished uni together with a guy called Gareth Mallinson, Sir Conical, and a few other guys. We started a jam night in Manchester. I think it was about 97, called Pork Scratching, and that it was a freestyle, really. It was sort of Carl on the drums, our mate Gaz on a bass, and Gareth on a sampler, and me and my mates on the turntables, really, sort of. But we'd start from the turntables, introduce a sample, and from there the musicians would kind of play around it, and it was a free-for-all, and you know, it was quite hectic and whatnot. But for me, that was possibly one of the sort of seeds that was sown to sort of put this kind of obsession with trying to prove the turntable as a legitimate instrument. You know, with it being such a new instrument, you've got to fight that whole notion that DJing, you know, it's such a wide sort of it's a catch-all sort of phrase DJ, you know.
Yeah.
So people can stick somebody like me in the same bag as whoever, Tiesto or whatever, and think, well, they're all just DJs, they're not musicians.
Yeah.
And my sort of being my bonnet was, look, this is a musical instrument. The great thing about this musical instrument is we can potentially be any instrument. You know, this is manual manipulation of sound. You know, and if you can do that manipulation in such a way that you're creating, you know, melody and rhythm, and you know, it's an amazingly interesting instrument. You know?
Yeah, no, it was definitely that's a battle I fought pretty much every day being in this band. So it was always the way.
Yeah,
we
especially
kind of
working with bands, you know.
Yeah, we were like riding the like new metal kind of wave that was happening at the time. So you got Sid in Slipknot, you got DJ Kilgore in Incubus and all that kind of stuff, and Lethal in Limp Bizkit as well. But you kind of like you had to I never liked justifying my existence within a band, but it was always kind of like
it's that battle, you know.
Yeah, exactly, and I you know I fought
Run
it.
DMC had it with Run DMC had it with Jam Master Jay. You know, they were on lineups with rock bands, and you know they sort of talk about it in the rhymes. You know, I think it's always been there.
Yeah.
But, just sort of proving yourself as as a legit musician or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. But you know, test of time and whatnot. We did it for like 10 years, and you know, eventually people sort of came around to it, and then we stopped. So,
I think there's a generational thing as well, you know, because I mean, certainly, I remember I did a video when Lemmy passed and at Ace of Spades, and that ended up getting such a you get like the Motorhead fans absolutely hated it. You know, I got a roasting for it, and because of that, well, apparently Lemmy was quite famous for sort of dissing DJs, but I'm sure that was kind of your more electronic DJs and whatnot. But it's a generational thing, because at the end of the day, I mean, my generation, most of my mates were heavy metal heads growing up, and most of my heavy metal mates got right into Run DMC when they came along, you know, with the Aerosmith sort of track and everything, and you know, so it's you know, when people see what can be done, I think you can persuade most people of its legitimacy. Yeah,
definitely. So let's bring it up to what you're doing now, because you've obviously you've had quite a sort of like DJ career as such, but now you've got your own label, which is called Woodwork Records. And,
the sort of name came from, I had a website years ago, pre YouTube and all sort of social media and all that, really. Back in the sort of forum days, if you will. Yeah. And I just had a website that I just called Woodwork, because this thing that came into my head.
Okay.
The name called Woody, but and that just used to sort of post various scratch videos and whatnot. So I just and I think I put out a couple of mixtapes under that banner as well. So the label pretty much started as a means to release my solo album in 2016. I wanted to put it out, like, put it out myself, just do it independently and whatnot. And everything sort of kind of went from there, really. I did some stuff with Bocca 45 from Bristol under the moniker of Bocca Woody. That was all independent as well, but we sort of set up another little label for that. And it's always been sort of something I've wanted to do, sort of making scratch records, really, because I've got a scratch record that I made sort of early 2000s that's still on the computer, but at the time Serato came along and just kind of made that market seem, it just sort of, I think it put a bit of a dampener on that whole kind of all that market, so I never ended up pressing it. But after learning, you know, more about the process through putting a few sort of music projects out, I realised people do buy records, and I worked out how to do it, and my production skills had sort of gotten a lot better from when I was younger. So decided to start putting a few scratch records out and stuff.
That's awesome. No, I've got a couple of them myself. First one I actually picked up was from a store near me called Dance 2.
Oh, right, okay, Jazz T.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he had it in stock. I think it was the yellow one. Is that Volume 1, Flexing Hard?
All right, yeah, Flexing Hard, yeah.
Yeah, and I picked that up, and then I've invested in a few more of your bits and bobs as well along the way. I've actually what I wanted to talk to you about was your grind strip, as well as.
All right, okay.
Yeah, I've got a couple of those. I got one on my Technics, and I just got one for my portable as well.
Wicked.
I love it. It's just even when I'm using like phase and stuff, it still works, which I find baffling. But
well, it just kind of it's random because I've always been a bit of like I said, one of the things I love about turntablism is just the experimentation, and the fact that we've got ways of notating scratches, and there's a lot of sort of online resources for learning particular scratches, and everything's got a name these days. But when I started out, it was like witchcraft. You know what I mean? Like there's nobody teaching you anything. You figured it out for yourself, and like we were learning cuts from just listening to records, thinking, what the hell is it? How's he achieving that? And that kind of explorative nature, I've just always really enjoyed about it. So, whether it's, cutting chunks out of records to try stuff, or if it's doing something weird to your turntables or whatever, that whole aspect of the art form I've always loved. So the grind strip idea initially came from it was something that I put forward to Vestax for the Controller 1 turntable. And one of the ideas at the time, there was a lot of exploration with faderless scratches, and I'd done, like Cuba had done a bunch, and Mixmaster Mike had sort of done stuff, and I'd done like one of my battle routines was like super heavy in that sort of in 2001, I think it was, that I was doing all the battles, and that was like a big exploration on that front. And this idea for the Controller 1 was that you'd have an additional kind of almost corrugated edge around the side of the platter, because why not, basically? And if you stuck your finger on this corrugated edge as you move the record back or forth, it'd give you that sort of vibrato sort of kind of sound, and it never got picked up by Vestax. There was a bunch of stuff on the drawings I'd sent them that kind of I think there was just tons of stuff, so it never got picked up. But years later, I found these designs on my computer. And I saw it, I'm like, all right, well, how can we have a go with this? And then I looked at the existing Controller 1, the one that got manufactured, and I realised that the placement of the buttons that I'd suggested to Vestax at the time, just around the sort of bottom left of the turntable, as well as being pitch buttons, also lent itself to this kind of sort of grind strip idea. So I just tried it, and it worked basically. So I just had the idea to sort of knock some up myself, that you can stick on anything, and it's sort of I don't know, it's a bit quirky and whatnot, a bit of a crazy idea, but it's a bit of fun, and it gives you some weird scratch sounds. So
no, it does. If I'd had that, say, like 10 years ago, it would have been great. I used to like when I was like the faderless scratching, but it was like one hand, and then I'd sort of like tap on top of that hand that was holding the record to sort of give that kind of weird effect without tapping the record itself and sort of having the needle jump everywhere. It was kind of like I was doing stuff like that, and if I'd had that, it would have had my hand free for the fader. Which
that's the really idea, really.
Yeah,
that's the idea. So it's it's a bit of fun. You get some weird wobbly sounds. So
no, I love it. It's just something so simple, but I'd never thought of even putting something on the turntable to like even mimic that kind of thing, my brain didn't even compute that side of it. So I was just like, when I saw it,
simple stuff though.
Yeah,
it's always the obvious stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So a couple of things I want to chat about. One is your the new group you set up on Facebook, the Faded Senior Scratch Club. I love that.
Yeah. Wicked.
Because we're all of a certain age, and
well, yeah, it seems that way, doesn't it? You know, I mean, luckily the whole portablist thing and gives turntablism sort of a more accessible price point than it once did. You know, that I hate that. Obviously, you've got controllers and whatnot, and you can download all your music for free these days. I remember half starving myself at school just to save up £1 a day to get a record at the end of the week. None of that these days. You can download, sort of a 10,000 song collection in 5 minutes. So like the kids don't have that, but really the digital side of things doesn't necessarily make things more accessible, because a lot of these controllers are costing whatever, 500 plus to get a decent laptop. I'm not looking forward to the day my kids want me to buy them a Mac laptop. Do you know what I mean? It's $2,000 of a job. So the great thing about the portable thing is that for £120, a 10-year-old kid can be cutting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that's brilliant. But yeah, like certainly there is a generation of us lot who all kind of started whenever in the 90s or 80s or whatever, even 2000s, and we're all sort of in our 30s, 40s and 50s and whatnot. So the forum just basically came from, I'm in a bunch of sort of aging skateboarder groups on Facebook because I still skate for my sins.
Yeah.
And it's always a good banter, do you know what I mean? And I think the problem with the sort of online sort of DJ community is so many cool people, but like people often get dragged, particularly the older DJs get dragged into this whole sort of negativity, sort of, dissing the younger sort of DJs or cultures, and I just haven't got time for it at all, like this. You could. I sometimes worry that somebody who doesn't know me might sort of tar me with that kind of true school brush, but like, I'm essentially a progressive. I just love this stuff, I'm into what I'm into, and it's not because I think particularly politically or whatever that's the stance I need to take. I just enjoy what I enjoy, so I do still play vinyl, but because I bloody enjoy it, you know what I mean? I've nothing against Serato, and there's so many cool things you can do with technology, so I just wanted to set something up for kind of people of our ilk just to have a laugh with, basically, sort of inspired by these forums like Middle Age Shred and Over 40 Skateboard Club and stuff like that. Just to have a laugh. Yeah, basically.
I really like it.
Bit of banter.
Yeah, I really like it because it does have that vibe of like the old school kind of forum kind of vibe where we kind of like our first sort of online interaction sort of started happening. But no, I love it because the banter between some of the DJs is great, and the general attitude of everyone is really good in there as well. There's very rarely any kind of like you say, the sort of like negativity that you get of an old school DJ against like one of these new school DJs that has all these bits of technology and whatnot. But I just didn't want that sort of gatekeeper mentality, because it's a rich culture and it's great, but it needs to be inclusive, It does. And even when I've had sort of younger DJs sort of message me and say, I really want to be part of it because it seems really cool, but I think I'm too young. And I'm like, dude, get stuck in. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, it's about the appreciation of the culture. It's not how many grey hairs you've got. Do you know what I mean? It's, it's everyone's welcome, Yeah. No, it's really cool. And I, like when it comes to like that sort of technology side of things, I was a kind of an early adopter of the Stanton Final Scratch. Which was like the hockey puck, like sound card and stuff. And...
I remember getting one at the time. It never quite. I don't know if it was my computer at the time, but I never got it working to a satisfactory level.
I never played out with it because I didn't have a laptop for one. But I used it in the studio, and it was fine in there. Like, it was running on either a Power Mac or a PC. But I just used it to scratch up like vocal lines and stuff like that from music, the band thing, and you know. And
do you remember those Tascam ones?
Yes.
And it was like putting a mouse on a turntable.
I've got one.
Yeah, I've still got one of those knocking about. I thought they were great, actually.
Yeah, I've
good.
I've got one. It's a TTM one. It's made by Tascam. I've got the Vestax CD players as well, the CDX.
Yeah, that's what you plugged it into, wasn't it?
Yeah. I started using those as well.
Oh, wicked!
It was great. It was like, and then now I've got the phase set up, the two like sensors and stuff, and just sort of like seeing like, which is kind of like the logical progression from that. I feel that Tascam thing was phase for back in the day. And
yeah, a different form of technology, but it's the same. Yeah,
same principle.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and
no, I've kind of held off from that. Yeah, but,
no, because I just wanted something to be able to minute, because it was like back then it was like you had to cut your own record if you wanted your own sort of sounds and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and then eventually I used the Tascam because you can have a CD and the CD player and all that kind of stuff. So I kind of generally adapted along, and then Serato kind of came along, and that's where I kind of like stopped being in a band, so I didn't invest in it. And since then, I've picked up along the way a Tractor Audio 8, Tractor Scratch Pro. Yeah, Audio 8.
There's loads of wicked ways to do it now.
Yeah, and there's so many now. I mean, I look now, and you've got all the sort of players releasing stuff. Denon, obviously Tractor is still there as well. Serato still there. Like all the different like programs and stuff. There's so much to pick from now, which is great.
I remember when we first. When the first Pioneer sort of scratchable ones came out, the 1000 or the 800 or 500, I can't remember what it was. But I remember when they first came out, and a mate of mine got hold of it, a really good producer called Seconical, the guy who we started the Port Scratching Night with. Yeah. And he was making his album at the time, and he's a great sort of, he's a pure scientist. Like, Carl actually sort of drummed on a lot of his stuff as well, Carl from iDefy. And he's like, would he come around? Made some really cool sounds for you to scratch up. So we ended up doing this. It was sort of like these acidy bass sounds and stuff. And I absolutely loved it. I never adopted Pioneer turntables because by the time I was so much into turntablism anyway. But by the time this hobby of mine had turned into a viable career, that was after I'd kind of won all the DJ battles and stuff. So the places I was playing, it was hip hop tours. It was hip hop clubs, and that it just didn't. The two didn't match. So I never adopted it as a means of DJing. But for scratching up like our own sounds and stuff, this would be like 98 or 99, whenever they got released. Yeah. Absolutely loved it. And then when Serato finally came out, at the time I'd started touring with DJ Vadim, and prior to Serato, he just got like all these sort of dubs made. I'm not sure if he did like really limited runs actually, because they seemed like properly pressed records, but it was so expensive for him to do. Yeah. And we'd have all the show noises and samples and various beats that weren't, released and stuff for the show. And we'd be cutting up those, which was great. But for every show, we'd set off from London in a transit van essentially, and we'd be in Germany for 3 weeks, literally doing like 18 shows in 21 days, playing all sorts of places in every little nook and cranny in Germany. Yeah. And like some places they'd love real backpacky hip hop, some places they'd be mad into the reggae, some places they'd love the funk, and we were doing DJ sets sort of before and after every show, of vinyl, obviously, and you just have to play it by ear, but you could never have enough records to cater for everybody. No. And then Serato came along, and Vadim's our tour first schedule was crazy. We were doing like 120, 150 shows a year.
Oh wow!
And and they were a fledgling, company at the time. So we just sent the touring schedule to Serato, and they're like, "Yep, hell yeah, you can have some of this for free." So they sent us the stuff, and it was just a no-brainer. Sort of putting the live set at least on Serato, because it just worked. There was no issues. But we had so much kickback from the hip hop community because we were, it was a pretty underground sort of grassroots sort of hip hop clubs that we were playing.
Yeah.
And the amount of time we'd be like somewhere random, and a 15-year-old sort of hip hop dude had come up to Vadim, who was whatever 20 years his senior. Bad had, or probably still has, like a crazy record collection and all this, and just to getting cussed by 15-year-old sort of hip hop kids for like having a laptop on stage with him, and it's like, dude, you don't realise we're doing, 25 shows a month. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. This is really useful for us, every time we get on a plane, whatever. But because of our sort of reluctance as well, I think for the first year of using Serato, at least, we were still just doing the live show on Serato and the regular DJing on vinyl. And then after a while, it just became daft. It's like, why don't we start actually putting tunes on Serato?
Yeah.
Rather than these samples.
Yeah.
So we started digitizing everything, and it just gave me so much more options.
Yeah.
You could play, within our musical taste. We could play to whatever crowd we were in front of, like, better than we normally would, because we wouldn't be restricted to that certain section of the box. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah.
I love all that stuff too.
Cool.
But
yeah, no, that's really cool. I mean, like I said, I remember lugging record boxes, CD boxes, all that kind of stuff, and now I'm literally some of the clubs I go to, I'm taking USB sticks, and I'm like, my back is never been more thankful.
Enjoyed that one.
So.
I've never had the luxury of a USB stick.
Oh, really? You haven't gone that far? Okay. No, the clubs.
No, well, I've gone full circle, man. Like I started doing gigs with Boca.
Yeah.
With the Boca Woody project, and obviously I've still got all my records, and I've still been buying records. But to be honest with you, for the sort of window of time where I was pretty much always DJing off Serato for the AV stuff and regular DJ sets, the records I'd buy would just be more gaps in my collection that I really wanted to fill, or more underground stuff that's not really for playing out, just headphone stuff. And then I started playing with Boca, and I thought, well, he just plays 45, so this is when we are playing out together. It's a good excuse for me to crack out my 45s, because I never get to play them. And I enjoyed it so much, and I was just like, man, there's all these good things about Serato, but most of the reasons people tend to sort of cite for their use of digital, be it, the size, the weight, this, that, and the other. Actually, if you've got stuff on 45, it sort of solves half of them problems. I can get on the plane to France with like a hand luggage size bag, and I've got 200 tunes in there that I can play for bloody hours.
Yeah.
All apart from the sort of interesting sort of technological things you can do with DVS, like the logistical things, the size of the records, solve, So I just enjoyed it. So I kind of pretty much, unless it's an audio-visual show, pretty much any DJ set I'm doing now is on 45s. It's really fun slinging records on and off.
Yeah.
Doing it manually, it just feels good. And I think I'd kind of bored myself as a DJ on TVS. I don't know. It was just kind of. Yeah. This is not a purist thing at all. This is a pure sort of experience of the actual act of doing it. It was a visceral. Just enjoyment.
Yeah, no, it's like you go through that selection process where, like, if you're going through a physical thing, like, I always find it when I'm sort of like messing around at home and I'm going through my records and stuff, and I'm like, oh, let's play that. Oh, that'll fit really well there. And it's the same when you do it live, because obviously you're reading the room, and if you're sort of like going through stuff on the DVS systems, it's fine. You're just like twiddling a knob, going down the selection, like whatever category you're looking in. But you don't. I don't quite get the same vibe. Like you said, when you pull it out, pull out that record, and you're like, you know what, that's going to be really good. Let's do that. That'll fit in really next. It doesn't have. It's sort of, you do have the same sort of thing going on, but not at the same time. I think it's that physical aspect of it, because otherwise you're just staring at a screen. It feels like you're staring at a screen anyway.
And just to take one more aspect of your life off the screen, we're so sort of, we spend so much of our lives just staring blankly at screens, so I mean, pretty much all of my work outside of DJing, I do all my own graphic design and stuff. That was on A. I was supposed to be a graphic designer.
Yeah.
So all the stuff for the label I'm designing. Obviously, you got all your emails. Pretty much most of my production these days is done on my computer. So there's so much of your life, and the promotional side. As an independent sort of musician, you're doing all the social media and all that tackle. So to actually be performing staring at a screen as well, the more I can get away from screens, the better. Yeah,
that's why I've adopted because obviously the clubs I'm playing at, they've got the setup for me to run like USB sticks out of the CDJs. But I so many pictures of like the club nights that I'm playing, and when they take a picture of me, like 9 times out of 10, it's just me gormlessly looking at my screen.
Saying that, I managed to. I did an event in the Beat Horizon event in Manchester about a month ago.
Yeah,
and I'm doing a 45 set, and somehow they had a decent photographer taking shots and stuff, and he sent me some of the photos through. And I'm somehow doing Serato face at my record box, sort of tongue hanging out, sort of looking slightly gormless. But caught me at just the wrong spot.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I've got one question left for you, Woody, if that's all right, because I'll let you get on the rest of your day after this, obviously. But what I want to find out is your this is like my generic part of the show, if you will. But I want to find out what your 3 albums that have kind of influenced you in the kind of DJing person that you are today.
Oh, right. Out of the blue.
Yeah.
3 albums. So, from a DJ perspective, possibly, I mean, I've got to go with a Run DMC album because they were really... As a kid, I was never any good at breaking. So, like, even though, electro was about, and that was cool, it was really hearing Run DMC for the first time, but absolutely sort of, was the one that kind of set everything else on its course, really. And Jam Master Jay.
Yeah.
And I think I'd heard Sucker MCs. I didn't have the first album straight away, but I'd heard Sucker MCs and I got King of Rock, but it was really Raising Hell that it was the one that was just stuck in the tape player forever.
Yeah.
That was the one. Beats to the Rhyme and all that.
Nice.
And second album, so I was into all your kind of sort of obvious ones, sort of Eric B. and Rakim, Big Daddy Kane, Stetsasonic, all that. But I really, really massively got into UK hip-hop in the late 80s and early 90s, and probably one of the most influential groups for me was Hijack. Their 12s came out a couple of years earlier, and the album was sort of put on hold for a couple of years, so it was slightly old by the time it came out.
Yeah.
But if we're talking albums, then Horns of Jericho, that came out about the time I was getting turntables. Slightly before, I think I was saving up for them, and a mate of mine had turntables already. But that was the benchmark. That, you know, for me, the scratching on that from DJ Supreme just absolutely wasted any other DJs that I'd heard. You know, like American or whatever. You know, it was like, and because I think at the time, a lot of people who'd got into hip hop with me, it was mainly my brother's generation, to be honest, like a few years older than me, who were like the original sort of hip hop lot. But I was kind of this sort of young kid who through my brother kind of latched onto it. But nice. But yeah, sort of late 80s, you know, sort of northwest of England, all that original hip hop generation had all got into the warehouse sort of rave scene and all that stuff. And I just turned into this real kind of, you know, I'm just kind of, you know, sort of getting more into this. What you lot doing over there? You know what I mean? So I turned into a real backpacker, and all that music, all that aggressive UK hip hop, sort of Britcore stuff, has really resonated. You know, like 1990, I was like a little aggro 13-year-old, like sort of, you know, the only hip hopper in Burnley. Do you know what I mean? I was like mad into it. So yeah, Home to Jericho, Hijack.
Cool.
And possibly Phantasmagoria, D-Styles, I guess. That is probably the best turntablist album that's been made. You know, it's mad dark, you know what I mean? But like musically, what he was doing with turntables to produce all that music, and the fact that it's all turntables, it's just an absolute landmark record for the culture, really. And certainly, it's just something to aspire to, really. So,
awesome.
That's it, I guess.
Cool. Well, Woody, thank you very much for your time, mate. I really do appreciate it.
No, it's good. It's been fun.
Yeah, thank you. I'm wearing the faded top right now, to be fair. And
dude, you're a legend. Thank you. Thanks for supporting, man.
Yeah, no worries. But yeah, no, thank you very much, man. You have a good rest of your day. And
you too.
Yeah, be safe during this lockdown.
Yeah, as long as my kids don't drive me insane, I should be all right, hopefully.
Good luck.
Yeah, you take care, man.
Thank you, mate. Have a good rest of your day.
You too, man. Bye-bye.